know that sometimes a breakup is the shakeup you need to redirect your life. And so if you're trading on ego, you're very easily replaceable.
Ideally, it's like, would I want 6'1"? Yes. Would I take 5'10"? Now, yes. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, because it's like that's not the most important thing.
I was like the hot Asian girl, and I played that hot Asian girl role.
That's a popular category, I heard.
I ain't trying to get between you. I'm just trying to get between you.
So, Amy Chan, Chief Heart Hacker of Renew Breakup Bootcamp. Welcome to Beyond.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like nobody really knows, how to navigate relationships in a way that's like healthy and functional. We're just sort of winging life right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's so crucial to have people like you who really understand people's patterns and what works and what doesn't work. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. I know earlier outside we were talking about the patterns that people have and like the dangle, which is such a common thing. I want to get into what that is because so many people have been affected by it.
Yeah.
And so many people have been pulled into the wrong like relationships, situationships because of it. So can you explain what that is?
Yeah, let's get right into it. So just to give some context, we were talking about the dangle in the context of these unavailable people that we seem to be so addicted to. And even if there's an option of someone who's available and kind and everything that we say that we want, there's this yearning for this other energy, which we know is bad for us. And so what happens is, I think once we've been burned quite a few times, we start doing the work, we read the books, we go to therapy. And intellectually, we know what's right for us, what's wrong for us. And then I've noticed something that happens is right when you're on the precipice of change, the universe or whatever it is drops in a dangle. And this is something that's going to tempt you to go back to an old pattern. And that is when you really have a choice point. You now have the knowledge of what is healthy, what is unhealthy. And you're going to make a decision of which path you're going to go. You're going to either soothe that addiction, that old familiar past, or you're going to choose this unknown path that might be a little boring, might be a little uncomfortable. And I see people go both ways. I see when people say, you know what, this is a dangle. I knew this was going to happen. I'm not going to go there. And they take the other path. And they really, I think, step over the line of change and even transformation.
I hear a lot about needing to do the work, whether that's like inner child work or something else. But what does that involve? Because I keep seeing that over and over again, especially with these like Instagram psychologist accounts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, what's that process?
Yeah, I think, the positive thing about all the Instagram psychologists, and I swear everyone's a coach now, is that it's made therapy and looking internal and self-care and all those things a lot more accessible and less taboo, right? Because in my parents' generation, this stuff is weird and up if you go to therapy. So I think that's a positive thing. But I think there's also a lot of stuff you have to sort through. And I think the work is going to look very different for every single person, but it's recognizing, okay, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And what do I need to do to close that gap? And it might be a starting point of like, okay, maybe the very first thing is, I'm just going to read this book. That's going to then lead you to maybe a type of healing modality, whether it's therapy or EDMR or psychedelic therapy, whatever it is. And you kind of just keep step by step going and not shaming yourself in the process of it. And what happens is you just start to recognize those patterns. It's the very first step, but that's not enough. Awareness is great, but it's not until you actually start making different choices. And it's in those small things we do on a daily basis, the boring stuff, that adds up and creates transformation. It's not in that one Tony Robbins weekend. It's not even in the one breakup boot camp. It is that boring stuff of reminding yourself to not do things out of guilt, to take a moment to do something that's kind to yourself, to not shame yourself when you feel an emotion that's negative. It's these little small things, and it's like if you shift the compass of an airplane just a couple of degrees, you don't notice it in the beginning, but you end up at a completely different destination. But it has to happen through consistency and making better choices.
Okay. So, like, what are little habits that we can change on a day-to-day basis that you've seen? Because I know you work with a lot of people and you've seen those shifts, and that's why you can speak on them. So what are like little changes that you advise people to take or pay attention to?
Yeah, I mean, look, the one that's all already out there is not new. Meditation is a really great place to start, because I think it's just even the act of being like, you know what, I'm just going to set 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 5 minutes. That just that decision in itself is doing something. And then what happens is that you start to get comfortable with these thoughts that come up, and that you don't need to be attached to all of them. And it helps you, and there's obviously science and how it helps with the gray matter of the brain and whatnot, but that's really great. And you can do even a meditative mindfulness walk, right? Where you just allow yourself to be bored, to let your mind rest. I think that's the number one thing. Another easy thing, journaling. And so this isn't woo-woo stuff. It enables us to release. It's almost like the debugging of the mind. It helps you build the relationship you have with yourself and with your thoughts. So those are two really easy things that you can do. And I think investing in what is the knowledge and energy that is around you. And this is going to be a combination of the friends and those conversations that you're having, to what podcasts are you listening to what books are you reading. Because if you're vegging out every night watching, the Kardashians, and then you meet up with your friends and then you're just talking about beauty treatments and gossip, all of that is creating your patterns.
Today's episode of Beyond is brought to you by MoonPay. MoonPay is your portal to Web3 where you can transact with peers globally and own your digital identity. MoonPay makes it fast and simple to jumpstart your Web3 journey. Quickly use your debit or credit card to buy and sell crypto and purchase digital collectibles. Visit moonpay.com to get started.